Hey guys, Vicefister here. Did you know that of the 4 newest classes released in World of Warcraft, they had a combined average range of only 10 yards? Well, it finally happened. Evoker can now be a tank. Well, sort of. Today marks 1 week closer to Dragonflight pre-patch. Hard to believe we're only 1 week away from leaving beta. Not us though. I guess I need another 2 weeks to contain our power. Fear not, because today our prayers were answered in the form of a whole lot of defensive buffs, nearly doubling the effectiveness of everything in our kit. If Evokers could learn any one thing from the recent M+ and Mythic raid testing, it was that we are a little on the squishy side, and that definitely won't fly if we are to become competitive in higher end content. Survivability quickly became the most pressing issue throughout the Evoker community the past few weeks, and for good reason. At the time, we probably had the worst version of every personal defensive in the game, and my past few videos highlighted that. But now, we won't fall over to big damage anymore. Evoker Doomers, suck it. Our main personal Obsidian scales went from possibly the worst one in the entire game to now possibly one of the best. Baseline CD went from 2.5 minutes to 1.5 minutes, and the damage reduction from 20% magic plus some armor up to 30% all damage. Huge. That's not all. The talent that buffs it, Obsidian Bulwark, was also reworked into something I couldn't believe when I first saw it. It allowed us an extra charge of Obsidian scales. Yes, that's right, this gives us a ton of extra uptime and flexibility on our main defensive, giving us the option for 24 seconds straight of it, or lining it up with 1 minute intervals of big damage events for multiple minutes in a row. This change is massive on its own, but the way the rest of our defenses were also buffed makes scales allow the others to become even more effective. Renewing Blaze's heal over time duration was lowered from 14 to 8, effectively doubling the healing per second it can bring. The comparison on screen shows a quick example of this. Say you get hit for 100k. Blaze used to take 14 seconds to heal that all back, and it takes every 2 seconds for about 7.1k HP. Now it heals at 100k in nearly half the time, the hot ticking for 12.5k. At least that's how it's supposed to work. It seems to be bugged and healing for its first tick before the first instance of damage, despite being procced from that same instance, leading to overheal. It's actually a super weird and seemingly over-complex mechanic that I wouldn't mind if it was simplified a lot more. Either way, this was a great change. Our self-healing got all-around buffs, with Living Flame's healing portion increased. The spell power coefficient of Panacea's instant heal doubled, and regenerative magic increased by 50%. People might stop and say, self-healing isn't a defensive, and they'd be correct in that healing will never be a reason you survive a one-shot like an Absorb or DR would, but if there's even a 1 second gap between 2 instances of fatal damage, then it sure as hell can be. Case in point being Boomkins in Shadowlands, in which a portion of their perceived tankiness was because of their passive healing, proc from their Conduit turned Dragonflight talent, Survival Instincts. You'd fall below 40% and start ticking for 8% of your max HP a second for 3 seconds, on a 90-second CD. Regenerative magic can essentially be the same concept, in that once you fall below 50% HP, you start taking a replication of 15% of all healing from your bonded target. When your Resto Druid is pumping 60k HPS during a large damage event, you start passively healing for 9k a second, while under 50% HP with no cooldown. Obviously the value of this drastically varies, but regenerative magic brings us a form of an undervalued passive defense sorely needed: passive healing. This talent was initially released at 20%, then nerfed to 10% because they thought it was too strong, and now buffed back up to 15%. That can speak for itself. Rescue's Twin Guardian node was virtually the only defensive unchanged, and it's still equally strong but clunky. But I do want to point out something real quick based on some discussion today in the Evoker Discord. Some classes have access to some insane damage reductions like 60% DR on a long cooldown, or they possess the ability to multiplicatively stack multiple DRs to reach 50 or 60% DR if necessary. Sounds broken, right? How could you ever die? Well, Evoker may only have a 30% DR in comparison, but when you pair the non-multiplicative 30% Obsidian Scales DR plus a 30% max HP Rescue Shield, you are actually mitigating more damage when compared to just a 60% DR. Here are some examples when comparing a 100k hit, a 150k hit, and a 200k hit across a 60% DR compared to a 30% DR plus a 30% HP Absorb Shield. As you can see, our option actually mitigates more damage in most situations. This is until the hit surpasses our total health pool, in which case the max HP shield no longer scales. We see this in the last example of the 200k hit, but in each case you're still healthy at over 50% HP. TLDR, we can layer defenses effectively too, just gotta work a little bit harder for it with rescue. Overall, it's a very good day to be an Evoker. I was saying recently that it was likely that they just threw some minor numbers on us just to make sure they don't overshoot our defensives initially, and would seriously look at our numbers after actually challenging testing, like the Mythic Plus and Mythic Raid testing we saw. 2 weeks later, we get these changes. I saw so many people saying we're screwed, no way we're getting buffs, it's too late, etc. They killed our single biggest issue today in my opinion, and I'm glad to see my faith wasn't misplaced. If you enjoy videos like this, in which I help keep you up to date with Evoker changes, and if my confidence is helping your confidence in your decision to play Evoker, kindly toss a like and subscribe to my channel to keep the spirits high on your YouTube feed. Thanks for sticking around, appreciate your time, and see you next time.